Hi, my name is Judy. Today I have a quick tutorial for you on Swan Pose, that's known in Yin Yoga. You may know it as Pigeon toe. I suggest a few props to play around if you have them. A couple bolsters for a more restorative version, although a bolster can be very nice even in Yin Yoga version. Possibly a block. And other than that, you have everything you need, so join me here. Swan Pose is a deep hip opener. It is beloved by runners, but you do have to be careful because it can be a bit hard on your knees. So I'm going to move my bolsters a little bit out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to step forward with my left foot. So I'm into a low lunge. And then I'm going to begin to wiggle that left foot over, bringing the left knee to the left wrist, pushing back on that back foot. And this is the first variation of Swan Pose. In this pose, in addition to being a hip opener, you're also getting a little bit of hip flexor on the leg that is straight back. And you're also getting some compression in your low back, and that may or may not be good news for you. So you can come down onto your forearms. And in addition to the bolsters, like I think I said, that you might want to block. I did not leave it near me to grab. But as you come down here, one of the things you can do with that block is take it underneath your forehead. That can make the pose feel a little easier. And you're also striving to get your hips, both hips, onto the mat if possible. If one hip is like raised really high, you can grab a folded blanket, slide it under there. You can grab a bolster, slide it under there. And you do not have to have the bent leg shin parallel to the top of your mat. That is really a myth. If you can do it, great. Mine is halfway there, but if you force it, you can really torque your knee, and no runner wants that, and nobody wants that either. Now, you can also come all the way down. You can take your forehead right down to your mat. And this may or may not be in your practice, and that is okay. I happen to really, really like Swan, and it is not too hard on my knees, but for some people it really can be. So this is often called sleeping Swan. And I'm going to walk my hands back, and then just slowly come out of that. Take my feet around, and take the soles of my feet to the mat. Knees are pointing up towards the sky or the ceiling. And since I just did my left leg, let's work on the right leg. And just take your right leg over your left leg, knees bent, flexing the foot a little bit. And this is still a great hip opener. It may not be quite as intense, and that's not always a bad thing. Hands can be pointing pretty much wherever you'd like them to point. They can be pointing straight towards your hips. They can be pointing out to either side. That might take a little pressure off of the wrists. You can push into those hands a little bit, get a little bit into that back, but remember, we're really not trying to get into muscles in Yin Yoga. So this is often known as figure 4 as well, and this is often known as seated swan. Now, if this almost feels comfortable for you, but it's not quite there, you can grab the block. You can raise your foot up on the block. That actually makes it more intense for me, but I have a big block. And I'm short. So, it's like anything in yoga. Play around with it. See what feels right in your body. But having a block under your foot may actually help. Now, you can also... There's so many variations with this. You can also walk yourself so that your chest is coming closer. And that's going to bring a bit more sensation into your hip. Most likely it does for mine. And this is another pose that you can also do at the wall. So you can take your hips over to the wall, coming into legs up the wall. Swing those legs up. Push yourself a little bit away from the wall. Excuse me while I do that. Take your feet to the wall. And then take your left leg over your right. And this is actually a nice, I really like to recommend this one. You'll get a lot of sensation in that hip, but it keeps your knees a little, it keeps it a little bit more comfortable for a lot of people in their knees. And you also have the option to straighten your right leg. Get a little sensation into your hamstring back there. And you can even take it up like this. All right. So there you go. That is Swan, aka Pigeon in Hatha Yoga. And it is a great hip opener. This is why it is beloved of runners who tend to have very tight hips. But really listen to your body. If your knees bother you, you may not feel any sensation during the pose. But if you find during the rest of the day or maybe the next morning your knee is just not feeling quite right, try some of the other variations out. I have a Yin Yoga practice after this. Oh, actually that reminds me. It's not a Yin Yoga practice, it's actually a restorative practice, and I wanted to quickly show you that. All right, for a restorative version of Pigeon, take a bolster or some pillows, some folded up blankets, pointed towards the short end of your mat, and then take another pillow, bolster, whatever you have, take it horizontally across your mat. Step your foot in front of the back bolster and then just begin to heel toe your foot back. And I'm kind of coming off my mat here, but that's okay. And one thing I notice is it gets a little easier to make my leg more parallel to the short end of the mat, but again, that is not necessary for this pose. And then you can just begin to lay down over your bolster. So this is just getting your hip a little bit away from the floor. And you are propped up. I'm going to come up a little bit so hopefully you can hear me. These are using the props to get you a little bit away from the floor. It's going to lessen the sensation a little bit. And because this is restorative, and restorative we definitely try to hold poses for a longer amount of time, the props make it easier to really relax into the pose, which is exactly what we're going after when we're in restorative. And the other reason I love to do this as a restorative version is you can do it immediately after running if you want. If you're doing yin after running, not such a good idea because your muscles are really warm and it's very easy to overstretch. But you can just go like this and relax and smile. And there you have it. That is some of the many different versions coming out of that slowly, somewhat slowly. Some of the very many different variations of Pigeon or Swan. I suggest you try them out, see what feels right in your body. Remember that can change day to day. If you learned something and you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click the like button. And remember to stick around for the practice that's going to follow this. And really remember every day to go inside and find the bliss and the calm and the happiness that is waiting for you inside.